If you've ever thought about writing a book but didn't start, or you started a book and didn't finish, this video is going to help you. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to find more time. I'm not going to tell you how to use different cool techniques and tricks and tips to finish your book, because it's probably not an informational issue. I've worked with over 1,000 authors to help them finish their books, and I've written 7 myself. And I'm telling you, the biggest obstacle to either not starting your book or to not finishing your book is actually fear. There are 4 major fears that I've seen. I'm going to identify those for you, I'm going to explain them to you, and then I'm going to give you some techniques to work through those. The first fear is, I don't know if I have a book in me. Now, this is the fear that usually stops people from starting their book, which makes perfect sense if you think about it. If you don't know if you have a book in you, why would you invest the time and the money and the energy to write one? So I'm totally on board if you have identified this as a fear, but it's a really simple solution. The way you get past this fear is you answer that question: do I have a book in me? Now, this is a stumbling point for a lot of people. Let me just quickly go through exactly how you can tell if you have a book in you. There are 2 kind of main ways. The first way is understanding, do you have knowledge or wisdom in your head that other people find valuable? Now, the best way to be sure about this is asking questions like, do people ask me for my advice a lot? Are people paying you for your advice? If they are, then almost certainly you have a book in you. Do people tell you a lot that you should write a book? And not friends and family necessarily, because sometimes those people will just say anything to get you to shut up, right? We're talking about people who don't know you, or people who don't have any vested interest in what you think. If people like that are telling you a lot you should write a book, chances are it's because you have valuable knowledge and wisdom in your head that they would like to have better access to. Another really good way to figure out if you have a book in your head is to identify a place where you had a real problem, you solved that problem, then asking yourself whether that knowledge would be valuable to other people. Let me give you a really good example of an author who used this method to get past this fear. His name is Adam Daly. He's actually a member of EO. He wrote a book called How to Run Away from Home and Take Your Family with You. So what happened for him was he sold his company, made a pretty decent amount of money, and decided he wanted to spend a year traveling the world. The problem was he was not only married, he had 4 kids, all under 12. So how do you travel the world with 6 people, 4 of them children? Sounds impossible, but he did it. He and his wife figured out a way to make a travel schedule that worked for them as a family. And so Adam realized, after talking with me and a lot of other people, that the problem he solved for himself was also valuable to other people. Thus the book. Right? Now it's come out, it's done really well. It's led to all kinds of speaking engagements and other things for Adam that he really enjoys. But the point is, because he went out, realized that other people wanted the solution to the problem that he solved, he was able to get past his fear about whether anyone would care about his book. The second fear that we see a lot of is, I don't know if anyone will care about my book. Now, what this really boils down to is the author is afraid that when the book comes out, no one's gonna buy it, it's not gonna resonate with them, it's not gonna have an impact. So the way to identify whether your book is gonna have an impact is to deeply drill into who is the audience you are trying to reach with your book, and does that audience actually care about your book topic? Let me give you a good example. We worked with an author, Dr. David Kashmir, who wrote a book about how a surgeon can navigate their career. As we were developing this book with Dr. Kashmir, he was worried it wasn't going to resonate with an audience. The problem was, in his mind, he, I think, unconsciously thought this had to resonate with a huge audience, which of course doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone care about surgical careers other than surgeons? Once we got him to understand that the book was very valuable for a very specific niche of people, then he was able to see, okay, we're going to position this book specifically and exclusively at surgeons. We'll make it extremely valuable for surgeons. And then even though the market is small, I know for a fact it will be highly resonant and highly valuable with that market. That's how you get past the fear about whether or not anyone's going to care. Identify your audience and ensure that your book is going to be valuable to that specific audience before you write it. When you look at this fear rationally, it's really easy to get past. The problem is that most authors are not looking at it rationally. When an author says, I don't know if anyone's going to care about my book, what they're often saying unconsciously is, I don't know if anyone's going to care about me. The reason is because they see the book as an extension of themselves, as a piece of their identity. And look, I get that. I wrote books myself. I did the same thing. But that's a very dangerous path to go down. Because here's the thing to remember. No one cares about your book. No one cared about any of my books. No one's going to care about your book. What they care about, the only thing they care about, is what your book is going to get them. I mean, think about it for yourself. You've never gone out to buy a book just to make the author feel good about themselves, have you? Of course not. That's ridiculous. You buy a book because you expect it to help you. Keep that in mind, and this fear is really easy to get past. The third fear we're going to go over is, I don't want to look stupid. Now, this is a very common fear. And when authors used to come to our company, I would oftentimes argue with them about this because they would come in with what I thought were very good book ideas with a very clear audience who would derive a lot of value from the book. Yet they would still go back and forth with me that they thought they were going to look stupid. And I couldn't understand it for a while until one author explained it to me and it made total sense. Imposter syndrome. I dealt with this early in my career. Everyone deals with this at some point or another, where you feel like what you know, what you have, what you offer just isn't that valid. Even if people are asking you to write a book, even if you know in an intellectual sense the book's going to help people, a lot of people still have that deep underlying fear that it's all fake, that it's not real, that no one really thinks that. There's a really easy way to get past this though. What you have to do is stop thinking about yourself and only focus on the reader. In fact, what I like to tell authors who battle with imposter syndrome is that the book is not about you. The book is about the reader, which in a sense is very true because no one cares about you. They only care about what they're going to get from your book. I know for people who suffer with imposter syndrome, this is not a permanent fix. It's not the be-all end-all, but we've used this very successfully with authors to help them get past this worry. The fourth fear is, what if my book isn't good enough? This fear I see very often with the most successful authors we work with. Here's kind of how it plays out. The people who are really successful in business, meaning sometimes hundreds, sometimes billions of dollars of value created in business, people who spent years speaking especially, people who have spent a lot of time on TV, who have really, really outsized success in one area, what ends up happening is they see the book as sort of a white whale, as the area that they've never conquered. And even though they're really successful in, let's say, speaking or in business or in TV, they worry that if they do a book and it's not perfect, it's going to bring everything crashing down. That a book that is not just as amazing as everything else in their life ruins their entire life, proves that they're a complete fraud, and brings their entire empire crumbling down. I mean, of course that's ridiculous, but that's not how fear works. Fear is not a conscious thing. It's not a rational thing. It's unconscious and it's deep and it's primal. And I get this. I've been through this too. It's super, super common with anyone who achieves success. We've used a few techniques to help authors get past this fear. The primary technique we use is we try and scope the book down and make it really small. Because what this fear a lot of times does is it leads very successful people to want to put everything they know in a book. They feel like if they don't have everything they know in there, if their book isn't the be-all, end-all, encyclopedic knowledge base of the universe, then somehow it's not perfect. What we do by scoping them down is give them something very clear, very finite that they can focus on, that they know well, and they can feel very confident they're going to nail. It's sort of like losing your virginity. The first time's always the hardest. With authors of a certain success level, the first book is always the hardest because that's the one where they feel like there's the most at stake. So the way you deal with that is you take the stakes down as low as they can go. You take one topic, one subject that's very niche and very much geared to a specific audience where the author feels very safe and very comfortable and very much in command of the material, and you just nail that book. then once that book's out, the pressure is now off, and now they can go write the 4 or 5 other books they have in their head because they don't feel like that everything's riding on that one book. At the end of the day, this fear really is a form of perfectionism, right? What's perfectionism? Perfectionism is the attempt to make everything perfect so that it's impossible to fail. And then what that really you're doing by being perfectionist is not actually shipping, not creating, not putting your stuff out for judgment and exposure. But that doesn't work. We all know that doesn't work. Now, here's the technique that we've used to help authors get past this. First, we identify and name this fear. As soon as you bring this up to someone, especially someone successful, they recognize it, they see it, they usually kind of laugh like, yeah, I totally am doing that. Because the fear that's named is the fear you can beat. The fear that's unnamed is the one that you really have to worry about. The second thing we do is we get them to commit as much as possible and as publicly as possible. The more public the commitment, the better. Now, if it's just to their wife or their husband, that's good. That's better than nothing. But the best commitment is going on Facebook or Twitter or on their website and saying, I'm doing a book, I want to have it out by this date, obviously a reasonable date, and asking their community to hold them accountable. That really, really works because now there's more social pressure to get the book done that's fighting the social pressure to be perfect, the perceived pressure to be perfect. Then the third thing we do is we get the author to scope their vision down as tight as possible. Because what happens with really successful people is they feel like if they've really done, they're great speakers, they built these massive businesses, they're really successful in these other areas, they get this feeling that their book has to be just as big and just as amazing and totally incredible right off the jump, so they try and dump everything they know into a book, which creates a mess. Most accomplished, smart people know really enough for 5 or 10 books. One book can't hold it all. So what we do is we get them narrowed down. We pick one subject that they are absolute world class at, if not the very best in the world. We get that deeply niched and we get them to focus clearly on that, execute on that, get that one book out that can be near perfect because it is a small niche that they know really well and they have a lot of experience in. And then once that's out, everything becomes easy. The pressure's now off. Now they can go write all the other books because they don't have to be perfect. It's just like anything else they do in their life. They get better and better as they go. Fear is real and fear is a book killer. If you want to write a book, if you're serious about writing a book, take your fears seriously. Because if you do not recognize them and you do not address them, they will stop you. They will cripple you and they will hinder you and they will stop you. I have seen it happen so many times. Don't let that happen. You can easily beat your fears just like you've beat them in other areas of your life. You can beat them with a book, but you've got to recognize them, you've got to identify them, and you've got to work through them, and you've got to do it consciously if you want to make it past it and finish your book. If you have any questions about fear regarding books, or really any questions at all about books, book publishing, how to finish your book, anything like that, feel free to reach out directly to me or go to our website, bookinabox.com. We're happy to provide any help we can to get you past your fears and get your book finished and published.